Winter nights already hold a kind of stillness that makes every sound sharper and every shadow deeper, the icy air carrying with it a chill that goes beyond the body. And among the many unsettling tales passed around about what can happen when the snow falls and the dark closes in, 3 true stories stand out as unforgettable reminders that winter nights can be as terrifying as they are beautiful. The first comes from Maine in 1994, when a man named Robert was driving home late from his shift at a paper mill during a snowstorm, the roads almost deserted except for the occasional truck, when he saw what looked like a woman standing on the side of the road wearing only a thin dress barefoot, in the snow waving desperately for help. Shocked, he pulled over and got out of the car calling out to her, but as he approached, the woman turned and walked into the woods without leaving footprints behind. Confused and terrified, he bolted back into his truck, locking the doors and driving off, later telling friends who informed him about the local legend of a young woman who had frozen to death after a crash decades earlier, said to appear to travelers on snowy nights as a desperate plea for help. Robert never took that route again after dark, too shaken by the sight of her pale face illuminated by his headlights. The second story happened in Colorado in 2007, when a group of 4 college friends decided to rent a remote cabin for a weekend ski trip. The first night was uneventful, laughter around the fire and snow falling gently outside. But by the second night, a heavy blizzard rolled in, cutting power and leaving them in total darkness except for the glow of the fireplace. Around midnight, one of them swore they heard footsteps crunching in the snow just outside the cabin, slow and deliberate as though someone were circling the building. They tried to laugh it off, but the sound returned again and again throughout the night, and then faint knocking began on the windows, though no figure could be seen through the frost, too afraid to go outside. They huddled together until morning, when the storm subsided, and they found dozens of footprints circling the cabin. Except the footprints didn't lead to or from anywhere. They simply went in endless loops around the house before disappearing at the edge of the forest. Local authorities brushed it off as pranksters, but the friends insisted the tracks were too erratic and too numerous to be explained by a single person, and each of them claimed they heard whispers carried on the wind that night. Whispers they could not fully understand but which seemed to echo from every window. The third story took place in Alaska in 2013, where a woman named Hannah lived in a small rural home with her dog. Snow piled up outside in thick drifts, and the nearest neighbor miles away. One night in January, she was jolted awake around 2 a.m. by her dog growling at the door. The kind of low, guttural growl he only made when something was very wrong. She assumed it was a moose wandering too close to the porch, but when she peeked out the frosted window, she saw faint shapes moving in the snow at the edge of the tree line. Humanoid but hunched, their movements jerky and unnatural. At first she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her in the moonlight, but then one of the shapes began crawling on all fours toward her house, leaving long streaks in the snow instead of normal footprints. Panicked, she grabbed her rifle and shouted, scaring whatever it was back into the trees. She stayed awake until sunrise, clutching her weapon, and when she finally dared to look outside, she found bizarre drag marks leading up to her porch and long claw-like impressions in the snow, not like any animal tracks she had ever seen in her life. Her dog refused to go outside for 2 days after, and though she reported it, the authorities dismissed it as a hallucination brought on by isolation and stress. Yet Hannah swore until the day she moved away that something unnatural lurked in those woods, something that came out only on the coldest nights. These 3 creepy winter night horror stories, the ghostly barefoot woman on a frozen roadside, the unexplainable footprints and whispers circling a cabin during a blizzard, and the grotesque crawling shapes dragging themselves across the Alaskan snow, show that the real terror of winter isn't just the cold or the dark, but the things that can move within both unseen, unexplainable, and waiting for those moments when the world is at its quietest, to reveal themselves, turning still, snowy nights into endless nightmares.